Hey everybody, I'm back again with what appears to be a regular recurring theme for me. That is to get a Saturday morning video in here for the weekly card pickups. And I'm just giving you a brief preview of what I'm going to show you here. But I wanted to start off here with this 1960 new card scoops. Killebrew starts spring training. So this was called the Baseball Highlights, the new card, the NU Card Company. They did a set in 60 and 61. The 61 set, I've got a couple of those cards. You know, they call it new card scoops. This is just Baseball Highlights, a much larger set here in 60. You don't see a lot of these graded. I don't know if it's because it's rarer or just because these cards are larger and just a little bit more awkward and not as desirable to get slabbed. Maybe, who knows? Let me know if you do know if these are rare or harder to get. But for the Killebrew collection, that's my first 1960 new card. Then on to a couple nice cards here from the 1966 Topps. Starting on the left with a nice Phil Niekro. This is his first year where he has his own individual player's card. 64 and 65, he shared a card as a quote-unquote rookie with the Braves with other players. So I know I remarked maybe a month and a half ago when I had an 87, I picked up an 87 Phil Niekro, and it's like, man, he looks so old. And then you just look at the 66 card, and you're like, yeah, that was 21 years probably before the other picture was taken. And he doesn't even look that young here. You know, he's been in the league several years. You know, and just look at history, what was going on in 1966, how much society has changed, or at least changed to the point in 1987 when I started collecting cards, and he was still pitching. Just an amazingly long career, Hall of Fame career, and just a cool piece of history there with Phil Niekro on his first individual playing card. And then looking here, this 1966 Topps Harmon Killebrew and an Airman 7. The centering is just a little off on that. It's still warranted as 7. Looks good in that new PSA Lighthouse holder. I bought all 3 of these 66 cards from the same seller. And so you can see here this Koufax looks pretty solid for a VG3. And I don't know if you can tell in the video, but there is a surface wrinkle right there under his left eye. You know, and sometimes, you know, my theory is if you can buy, you know, cards from the same seller, you know, and the majority of the cards are Nearman 7s or 8s or maybe even a 6, and then all of a sudden there's one that kind of sticks out, maybe a VG3 like this, you know that it's going to be a good quality card. It may have one major defect, but it's going to have, you know, probably clean borders, edges, etc., like the other cards on the lot. That's just a theory I have, and it worked well for this. I really didn't know what this Koufax would look like when I got it, but taking it out of the mailer when it showed up at my doorstep, I am very pleased to have this, even if it's just a VG3. I'm not a big Koufax collector, and this card's popularity has just been shooting up, primarily because it's part of you know, Mike Payne's 300 greatest cards of the 20th century, so it gets some love for that. It's Koufax's last card. He did have a great year in 66 as well, and maybe his popularity as a whole has been going up. Moving on here, this 1971 O-Pee-Chee Gil Hodges from my Gil Hodges collection. Show him as a manager with the New York Mets. The O-Pee-Chees differ a little bit from the Topps. They got a yellow back as opposed to a green. I actually kind of prefer the O-Pee-Chee backs. They do have an image of a headshot back there, and the headshot just shows up better in the O-Pee-Chee than it does in the Topps, when it kind of fades into the background of that dingy green on the 71 set. But nice little pickup. I got this from Pre-War Card Collector for a fair price. Don't often shop from him because this stuff is usually out of my league price-wise, but was able to pick this up. And another couple cards I've got, a couple SSPCs and a Gem Mint 10 for two star players, one from the 70s, one from the 50s and 60s. So Pete Rose, Gem Mint 10, obviously you see the Willie Mays. That Willie Mays is actually of him as a coach. And I've talked a little bit before about the SSPC set. This set actually came out in 76, even though it says 75, because of legal trouble, and then quickly disappeared. They didn't make any more, you know, that was it, the 75 set. And sold it for, I think, for like $10 for the entire, you know, 600 plus cards. But there's a lot of really clean and nice examples of this. And I'll be honest with you, I am not a guy that has to have his cards in a Gem Mint 10. You know, I was able to pick the Rose up for under 20 and the Mays up for under 10. So when I can get a good card like that for for a cheap price, I'm not going to turn it down. But by no means do I have to be a guy that has to have Gem Mint 10 cards from this era. Another example of that here with this Joe Morgan and Jim Palmer. Collect both these guys, both Hall of Famers. So a junk wax era now. And both Gem Mint 10s, I think I played under $10 for both of these cards individually. So like I said, if it's going to be under $10, and I can't even get a card graded for that. I don't know. I've never paid to have a card grade, but I know the price keeps going up on that stuff. So to get a Gem Mint 10 on these cards, yep, nice to have them to the collection. 1982 Fleer Lee Smith rookie year. This one's the Cubs. Our logo is reversed. There's two variations on it. I'll go ahead and do the flip on this to show you kind of what it looked like. See the Cubs logo inverted. I think they're both about the same in price, but this is just a cheap junk wax era card here from a really solid pitcher. Of his three cards, the 82 Fleer probably is my favorite, just because it shows him fully in action. His 82 Donruss is cool too. Have that as well. The Topps is much more of a portrait, a little bit more of a portrait photo. Then these last two cards, two Hall of Famers I collect, Joe Morgan again and Rod Carew. And just want to talk a little bit more about the 84 Donruss set itself. And I tell you what, as a kid, started collecting in 87. Love that 84 Donruss design. Just something about it captivated my attention. It was just so appealing to me. The colors, the way those lines just kind of swerve, and that 84 design, it all came together for me. And I had never had the opportunity to rip any of these packs. I guess rumor has it they were hard to find. You weren't going to probably find them at the convenience store. You might have had to go to an actual card shop to get these. But they were part of that magical rookie class of Darryl Strawberry and Don Mattingly that had everybody's attention in the late 80s. So it was a magical set. And even the backs, let me flip this, the aqua teal, or whatever you want to call that, backing on these was just so gorgeous. It still looks good. I'll say it still looks good today. So much better than the dingy gray cardboard of the Topps back in '84. So just something that captured my imagination. Take me a little bit back to my youth as I reminisce about this. But that's all I got for you guys. Once again, everyone, I appreciate your posts and comments, and I will talk to you again soon.